So a few things that you can look at on this sheet. A through E is what we just did. Okay, so do you feel good with A through E on problem number 1? And then it says up for F and G, they want to know what the z-score is. So remember, the z-score is the standard deviation. It's another way of doing the standard deviation. So for letter F and G, for problem number 1, your equation is going to be this. So if you wanted to find the z-score, what was the z-score if it took 57.5 seconds? So the z-score is going to be 57.5 minus whatever the average was. And they said the average was 58.1. And the standard deviation was 1.3. So you would just find the actual z-score. You're not going to use the z-score to go back and look at the table. You're going to find the z-score. And then G, same thing, except you're going to plug 59.5 in minus 58.1 over 1.3. Remember, the z-score can be negative and it can be positive. If it's negative, it's to the left of the average. If it's positive, it's to the right. If it asks you for what percentage is this, or what's the chances of this, then you go to the table in the back of the book, and we'll have a table provided for you on the test. Okay? And then if it says if her z-score was a certain score, what was the time? So can I get off F and G? Does that make sense? So after that, it says H and I are both done the same way. They tell you that you had a z-score of -2 on one and a z-score of 3.1 on the other. So what was the time? So what you have to do is you have to work backwards on your z-score. So your z-score is equal to the observed minus the average over the standard deviation. Oops. So if they gave you a z-score of -2, you're going to go -2 is equal to, you're looking for your observed score minus your standard deviation. And then this one, z-score would be 3.1 is equal to, you're looking for the observed score minus the mean over the standard deviation. So those are some things just to work backwards with that. And then J and K are going to be inverse norm. You're going to do inverse norm. Okay? And remember, that's only 3 values, so you just use your calculator for that. Someone was pointing out to me, though, if you were to use 0.05 and use the table in the back of the book and find as close as you can to 0.05, you're looking for the z-score, you're going to be off a smidge if you use the table in the back versus the calculator. Which is the right answer? They're both right. Alex is excited because now he's just doubled his chances of getting it right, I guess. Oh, should be quiet. He's sleeping. A, B, and C on number 2 are all three going to be the NCDF, normal distribution ones. Okay, what we just worked on the quiz. D and E are both inverse norm. And I'm going to come back to number 3 in a moment. Number 4 on the next page, A, B, C, D, and E are all NCDFs. What we just did on that quiz. You're plugging in 4 values. And then F, G, and H are what we worked on yesterday. Does anybody want to see F, G, and H worked on number 4? That was what we worked on. You're good, or you want to do it? You want me to do it?
Yes.
Okay. All right, so problem number 4 says if both girls are running the 400 in the next meet, find the probability that. Okay, so you have the 2 girls. You have Jenna, and Jenna has an average of 58.1 and a standard deviation of 1.3. And then you also have Lindsay. And Lindsay has an average of 57.6 and the standard deviation of 2.7. So Jenna's going to be the more spot-on runner. Lindsay's going to have a little more spread out times. Okay, so we want to have that Jenna beats Lindsay. So probability that Jenna does better than Lindsay. Jenna beats Lindsay. Jenna beats Lindsay. Okay, is that going to be done right? Okay, so remember on this, I'm going to do this. What am I looking for at that point? Remember, I have to find the new mean. So, the new mean, what am I doing with these values? Subtracting them. So I need to find my new mean. So I'm going to go 58.1 minus 57.6. What is that? 0.5? Is that right? Okay, so that's the mean we're going to use. That's our new mean for our z-score. And then, what do I have to do with the standard deviations? I forget. Square root. I'm going to square them and square root them, right? So in order for me to find my new standard deviation, I'm going to take the square root of the first standard deviation squared, and I'm going to add it to the square, this squared. So on your calculator, go 1.3 squared plus 2.7 squared. Whatever that answer is, raise it to the 1/2 power. Take the square root of it. And what'd you get? .99. That was a square root as well? Yeah. Okay, so we now have a new standard deviation of 2.99. From there, what we can do is we are going to go and we're going to find the z-score. Okay? So the z-score, I'm going to now use this 0 as my observed minus my new mean, minus 0.5 over my new standard deviation of 2.99. So I'm going to get a negative value. So what does that negative value come out to be? 0.5 over 2.99. Negative 0.167. Now you can use the table in the back. Use the table in the back. Your table, I'm looking for negative 0.16. It's negative 0.016. So 43.64. So there's a 43.64% chance this is going to happen. Okay? Then the next one, letter G. Somebody split the screen. We're still going to use the same information, but we're going to have Lindsay as a whole second faster. So Lindsay, her score is faster than Jenna plus a second. So we want to know the probability of this happening. So this is actually going to be the same thing as L minus J minus 1 is less than or equal to 0. So I just use arithmetic to bring all that over. Okay? Things that I already know, excuse me, is I have L minus J already, minus 1. L minus J minus 1. So this minus this minus 1. So that was this minus 1. So this is going to give me my new mean is going to be 0.5 minus 1, which is going to give me negative 0.5. And we know what our standard deviation is from the last problem was 2.99. So now I'm going to use this. I'm going to find my z-score. So z is equal to, that's my observed 0 minus 0.5 over 2.99. So negative 0.5 is 0.5. It's positive. 0.5 over 2.99 still is going to come out to, what does it come out to? Excuse me. Positive. So it's going to be positive. It's the reciprocal of that, and it just have to be coincidental. So if you look at your table in the back of the book, you're going to look up 0.17 or 0.16. 0.16. So 50.5636. So 56.36% of the time, this scenario is going to take place. Okay? And then the last one, H, you're going to use probability of Jenna is greater than or equal to L plus 0.5 because they're a spot or a half a second. And it's going to be done the same way. Okay? If you're able to do what we just talked about on the quiz, especially with the calculator, or you're just using the table, and these, you're gonna knock it out of the park on this test. Okay? What I'll do for the test tomorrow is why don't I dedicate 15 minutes to any questions. Then the test, if you need to have that smiley face, then I'll give you 15 minutes on Friday, if that's also needed. Sound good? A-okay? I recorded both of those lectures. There's going to be 2 parts today recorded.